Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 166 of Optimal Living Advice, the podcast where we take any questions you might have about the many struggles of life and get them answered for you here on the show. I am your host, certified life coach, Greg Audino. Today, I've got a question for you that I think is really important for all the couples out there. You know, all relationships have their challenges, and many of those challenges can be based around jealousy or insecurity. Our asker of today's question has taken the right step of leaning into such feelings, but now what? He's looking for some help navigating these nagging thoughts, so let's see if we can help him out with them. Here's what he's got for us. I've been with my wife for 15 years, married for 4. At the moment, we have the best relationship ever since we got married. No major issues or distrust. We are best friends, and she is supportive, loving, caring, and I couldn't ask for a better wife. However, I found out that about 10 years ago when we were on a break, she hooked up with my best friend at the time. I also learned of 2 new intimate partners and people she talked to during one of our recent breakups prior to our marriage. We did break up a few times as we got together at 16 and 17. We are now 31 and 30 years old. I just need some advice on how to handle these thoughts that I can't get out of my head. I really don't want to look at my wife any different because of these new findings. I bring it up sometimes and it brings her down, but she understands it's part of my healing. However, I don't want to keep bringing it up and risk losing her. Okay, that's a good question, and thank you for sending this one in. Really nice to see you facing these thoughts and how you can handle them better, as opposed to being resentful towards your wife and making her feel as though she's forever in trouble for her actions. That's the way to go, and I'm sure she finds the effort alone to be very, very sexy. Let's start by talking about when you bring these feelings up to her, the last segment of your question. Now, first of all, let's be appreciative of your wife for still fielding questions about something that was in the past and can't be changed and that she was honest about in spite of how uncomfortable of a topic it is. What do you say to her during these interactions, and what do you want her to say? Is there anything left to gain? Any new imperative information left that could somehow benefit you? You know, usually when it comes to past issues that we bring up repeatedly, we're just spinning our wheels after a while. The communication is coming from the right place, but after a while it gets very easy to think that somehow there is new information that is yet to be discussed, information that will somehow be enough to silence our nagging thoughts. My guess is that you've already heard everything there is to hear, and at this point, you're just looking for something to grip onto that will help you feel better about it. You're probably not going to find that something. Communication about hard feelings is a really good thing. But if it becomes repetitive and the same thing is being brought up repeatedly, well, it gets more and more necessary to consider how it's affecting the other person, in this case your wife. Formulate your own opinion on this one, but I would say that it's highly likely that your own insecurities about having her around are stronger than you think, and your wife giving you the same reassurance over and over again isn't going to help those insecurities nearly as much as good self-work will. You said it yourself. If anything, playing this same track on repeat stands a good chance at chipping away at her patience. I don't think this will translate into her loving you less necessarily, but it could damage her ability to love what she's offering to the relationship, as she may start questioning whether there's anything left for her to do that can help you feel comfortable with her. Obviously, we don't want anyone dealing with those feelings of inadequacy. Now, there may be a lot of assumption in all that, but if any of it feels like a truth that you've maybe been denying, then it might be best to reassess your feelings with the help of a therapist to learn more about what's really going on with you and how to present it in a way that is open, yet not too stressful for your wife. With that being said, I'll throw in my 2 cents about your wife being with other people once upon a time and how I think it could be handled in a healthy fashion. 10 years ago is a long time, and not only is it a long time, but it's the difference between 30 and 20, which is a period of extreme development and reprioritization as well, as we cross the threshold from college years into adulthood. I would hope that you're both very different people now than you were then. And I would also like to remind you that anyone who gets together as teenagers and stays together usually faces a lot more temptation, as there's not the same time for experimentation with other people. Not always, but usually. Your wife being attracted to other people, certainly when you two are apart, that's her being human. It's not necessarily because you did something wrong. And based on how you framed your relationship in your question, it seems these urges have subsided. Hopefully, you're both being honest with one another about that. But, marriage is still a journey. That means that neither of you are immune to challenging feelings of temptation or anything else that could threaten a marriage just because you've tied the knot. This may sound difficult, but the only way to withstand is to submit to this possibility, no matter how hard it is. I've said this in an episode past, but the best kind of commitment to someone is not sticking by them even when it's become clearly unhealthy and every fiber of your being wants to leave, were it not for like a piece of paper you signed or because you just hate going back on promises. The best type of commitment is the commitment to talking out any difficult feelings or urges as soon as they come up, and being respectful and conscientious when your partner does the same and proceeding accordingly, even if that proceeding means one or both of you entering therapy, as might be the case this time around. And just a note, if it seems like the type of commitment style I am proposing is already what you're doing, it sort of is. You're on the right track with the way you communicate. But the nature of that communication should still be considered, as I alluded to earlier. Either way, making this type of commitment a focal point and a promise that you two outwardly make to one another should make all these tough feelings get exchanged a little bit easier for both you and your wife. It seems like you're good at being vulnerable in your relationship. That's awesome. Make that vulnerability stronger by channeling it in this way. It's a promise you can make now, and you really don't have to touch again. All you can do is hope that your wife abides by it. If you trust her, take the leap, propose this type of commitment, and hopefully it works out. If you don't trust her to be compliant with this, then maybe the level of trust in your relationship isn't as strong as you think. And whether or not such an instinct would have weight or legitimacy to it, if it's there, that is what you should turn your attention to addressing right now. A big thank you to the man who sent this question in for being so open and wanting to do right by his wife, and also for giving us a chance to look at communication from a different angle, rather than to just do it. Hoping this episode helped you out and that you two can continue to have the wonderful relationship you've described currently having. Everyone, if you've got a question or a struggle of your own that you would like a little extra support with, you know where to find us. Email your concern to us at advice@oldpodcast.com. We will be in touch and help you out as best we can. I'm going to wrap it up for today, though, my friends. As always, I appreciate you sticking around, and I hope you'll join me again in the next one. Bye, everybody.